Hey everybody, welcome back to Family Fridays. I'm George Willett. We are going through a study on Jesus. Kind of a good thing for us to study, isn't it? As we said, we do Family Fridays. The whole idea is to do Bible basics. Excuse me. We're not going to get in depth. I mean, we could spend years and years and years just studying about Jesus, but when we're talking about the Bible, when we're talking about God, when we're talking about Jesus, we realize that some people may not have heard some of this before or understand why the Bible says certain things. So we thought it'd be okay. And last week we talked about how the Bible teaches that Jesus is God. He's God in the flesh. He came down, this divine being, the creator of all things. One person of the Godhead came down to experience what we experience, to live this life and why that matters. And today we want to talk about the fact that also in this nature that Jesus has, not only is he fully God, he is also fully man. He took that nature on himself, and we'll see this in the Bible, and we'll see why it matters. So the first thing is out of Philippians chapter 2. Talking about Jesus, having this attitude in yourselves, which was also in Christ Jesus, who, although he existed in the form of God, he is God, did not regard equality with God a thing to be grasped, but emptied himself, taking the form of a bondservant and being made in the likeness of a man. Now, this emptying, it's not that he stopped being God. Jesus was always God from eternity to eternity. He is always one person in the divine Godhead. But for God's plan of salvation, of redemption, of reconciliation to take place, God the Son chose to submit, to lower himself, to come from this heavenly realm, to come down and to bear humanity in this form, to be able to do what none of us could do. And we as Christians are supposed to have this kind of humility, this kind of life of submission and service. Philippians 2:5. Again, I did this because I wanted you to, again, look at that part. Emptied himself, taking the form of a bondservant and being made in the likeness of a man. He was not a spirit being who just appeared and kind of looked like a man. He was born of a virgin. He was born of a woman. He had flesh like we had. The miracle of the incarnation, for me to think about it, is that God covered his divine majesty, clothed it in human flesh, and was challenged in all the ways we were. But there are people who say that either Jesus was just a man and wasn't God, or he was God in such an extent that he has no way to relate to us at all, and that's just not what the Bible teaches. In fact, Paul says in Galatians chapter 4, but when the fullness of time came, God sent forth his Son, born of a woman, born under the law. You see, that's the important part of why Jesus came as a man. To have all of our temptations, to have all of our struggles, all of our experiences, and yet he still fulfilled all of the law. He never sinned. He could be the sacrifice that none of us could be. You see, I have to answer for my own sin. I have to wrestle and deal with the fact that I'm a sinner, and all of us do. So when judgment comes, we deserve to suffer the consequences of our rebellion to God. But there had to be a sacrifice, someone who didn't deserve to be punished, that could take my punishment on himself and take the punishment of everyone on himself. That's what Jesus did. In Hebrews chapter 4, for we do not have a high priest who cannot sympathize with our weaknesses, but one who has been tempted in all things as we are, yet without sin. The writer of Hebrews, the whole idea of Hebrews is Jesus is greater. Jesus in God in the flesh coming down. He is greater than angels. He is greater than all of the sacrifices. And he is our great high priest. He's the one that can mediate between us and the Father. And he came so that he could understand us, that he could empathize and sympathize. And when he talks about giving comfort to those who are grieving, Jesus knows what it means to grieve and to suffer and to be betrayed and to be hungry and to be tempted in all the same ways that we are. Yet he didn't sin. That makes him the greater sacrifice. And once Jesus sacrificed for us, there is no more need for sacrifice. He accomplished everything on the cross that needed to be accomplished. Isaiah 7:14, therefore the Lord himself will give you a sign. Behold, a virgin will be with a child and bear a son, and she will call his name Emmanuel. Now, this is an Old Testament prophecy about the Messiah, about the chosen one, the anointed one, the one who's going to come. And he was born like all other men are born, through a woman. But this was a miraculous birth because she was a virgin. You will name him Emmanuel, God with us. God in the flesh. Jesus, the one who takes away the sins of the world. This doctrine, this belief, this teaching of the Bible, God revealing himself to us. It is beautiful from the Old Testament to the New Testament about who Jesus is. In John chapter 1, verse 14, the Word became flesh and made his dwelling among us. We have seen his glory, the glory of the one and only Son who came from the Father, full of grace and truth. Now, in John 1:1, we read it last week about Jesus being God, is, in the beginning, the Word was with God, and the Word was God, and the Word is Jesus, and he became flesh. I came to Christ later in my life. I was in my 30s. I had an understanding of God and the Bible a little bit, but I didn't. I even kind of went to church every now and then because I had been raised. Like, church was something when things were really rough, you did. Or if you wanted your kids to grow up to be good people, moral people, you'd have church kind of like you did school for education. It was moral education. But I had no connection. I had no submission. I had no heart, and I lived very far away. And when I realized who Jesus really was and what he really did for us, that in him I find truth and I find a way of doing life, not to earn anything, not to become a moral person, but to have a relationship with someone who loves me and created me and saves me. And I want to follow truth. And 2 John 1:7. I say this because many deceivers who do not acknowledge Jesus Christ as coming in the flesh have gone out into the world. Any such person is the deceiver and the Antichrist. This is a strong condemnation. And again, it's nothing new. There's nothing new under the sun. There have always been people who said, Jesus Christ, okay, they can accept that he's divine. But man, he couldn't be flesh. The Gnostic teaching of the first century and a little bit later on, spirit was pure and good and flesh was wicked, bad. And the flesh would do all kind of bad things. So there's no way God could become flesh. He wouldn't do that. But that's exactly what Jesus taught, what the New Testament teaches. And anyone who does not accept this dual nature, that Jesus is fully God and fully man, they're a deceiver, they're an antichrist, they're against the Christ of the Bible. Hebrews 2:9. But we do see Jesus, who was made lower than the angels for a little while, now crowned with glory and honor because he suffered death, so that by the grace of God he might taste death for everyone. Again, he was never lower than the angels in worth, power, authority, but he became human for a little while. And after he did his mission, after he completed all that he was called to do, he ascended back to the right hand of the Father in glory and honor. And he suffered death for all of us, so that all of us could have a way back to a right relationship with God. Again, in Hebrews 2:14 and 15. Since the children have flesh and blood, he too shared in their humanity, so that by his death he might break the power of him who holds the power of death, that is the devil, and free those who all their lives were held in slavery by their fear of death. Again, you look at the New Testament, you read everything that is talked about the person of Jesus Christ, and it is inescapable. You can't avoid the reality that God took on humanity. He clothed himself, became like us in nature to do what we couldn't do, to free us from this bondage, this weight, this burden of sin and death. To defeat the enemy, the adversary, the devil, Satan. Hebrews 2:17. For this reason, again, everything we just read, he had to be made like them, fully human in every way, in order that he might become a merciful and faithful high priest in service to God, that he might make atonement for the sins of the people. And then Hebrews 2:18. Because he himself suffered when he was tempted, he is able to help those who are being tempted. What a gift God has given us. Whatever you're facing, whatever you're going through, whatever challenges, heartache, persecution, temptation, anything that you are dealing with, you have a God who knows exactly what that feels like. And he can provide you the wisdom, the discernment, the help, the comfort, the strength that you need to find a way out of that temptation, to find the strength to bear under that suffering. That's the joy of Christianity, is not that we are trying to earn anything, not that we are working to make ourselves seem like we're good, to earn a reward. It is all the work has been done by the person of Jesus Christ. God did everything we needed, and he offers that as a gift to us. And that gift transforms our lives. It changes everything about us. So again, I hope you understand why this is important, that we understand who Jesus really is. And we live in an age now in America where even those who are churched, they've gone to church, their families have gone to church, maybe they're going to church right now, aren't being taught all of this. It's not being explained, it's not being shown that this is in the Bible so that we can have an appreciation and understanding and a relationship with the real Jesus in the Bible. All right, I hope that helped. Next week, we're going to look at Jesus as the Messiah. So come back, we'll see you next week. Bye.